A few things like have come up recently is coercion, and I feel like this is one we touch upon it here and there because it's obviously a part of all of these very manipulative and very like abuse dynamic relationships that we talk about in Percy Jackson, but specifically like coercion within relationships is something that's been on my brain the past few days. So on my TikTok a couple days ago I made a video because I kept getting all these videos on my FYP of this girl who's going to a college. I didn't even see which college. All I saw was that she had made a video saying, I'm getting kicked out of my dorm
and I live in the dorms. So welcome to the worst week of my life. Oh.
To move out. I'm freaking out. Like, she was definitely freaking out because of the timing for the most part. But the reason she was getting kicked out, and she fully owned this, was because she kept having her boyfriend in her dorm. And so everybody went in on this girl of like, well, they told you, and oh, you had already been in trouble for this. And like, she even was doing some other questionable things like bringing a cat into her room, which, like, yes, you shouldn't do that when you're in dorm rooms. But what started to concern me was when I was like, I want to look more into this because there's no way this girl is just like, oh, I don't care. You know, like nobody does that, right? Nobody is like, I'm just gonna break the rules just to break the rules, and I don't, and then cry about getting kicked out. Like that's not what people do. If you're gonna be the person who breaks the rules and doesn't give a fuck, you're not gonna care you got kicked out. So when I was investigating in her comments, somebody had asked her about like, well, if you were already getting in trouble, why did you have him there? And she said because he wanted to dot dot dot. And I don't know, just like the extra dot dot dot. I know it's just kind of like a, like you could throw it away. It could mean nothing. It could mean something. What I'm getting is he was pressuring her for sex. Like that's really the undertones. Is he wanted to come home with me? We can't go and do it in his dorm, so he had to come to mine. And the other thing that was said in that was like, okay, why would you do this for a guy? And she was basically like, well, we're in love. And I will say that both guys and girls are definitely guilty of this in relationships, especially when you're younger. Like, you could be guilty of being manipulative in ways that you don't necessarily clock how bad you're being. You know, so I will give that young man that benefit of the doubt. Maybe he doesn't realize, like, oh, I was putting so much pressure on her that she didn't realize she could say no to me. But it it's something that happens, you know, it's something that happens to us in relationships where we feel so strongly bonded to this person, so afraid that they're going to leave us, or so afraid that something's going to happen, that we feel like we can't say no to things we would normally say no to.
Yeah, there's been a lot of stuff in the news lately about things involving coercion, and I'm glad because it is a depiction of grooming and abuse and just in general that is hard, I think, to explain. So using these sort of examples is a good way to figure it out. Like when you made that video about that, I was like, it's upsetting to me that people saw like a college age girl say that she's getting kicked out of school because the school was mad that her boyfriend was staying over, which first off, I was like, is this a Christian school? Because that's really weird to kick somebody out because they have a boy sleeping over. Like, what is okay? First off, I was just like, that's weird. But it was very disappointing to see how the internet was once again victim blaming her, and like was in a situation where she felt like she couldn't tell her boyfriend no, whether that's because she's like has people pleasing tendencies and is too young to like have been able to figure out how to like stand up for herself in that way, or because he was like somewhat trying to like, you know, pressure her in a way of staying there, even if she knew that he wasn't supposed to be there. And people's response being like zero empathy, none, no empathy, nothing, and just this is your fault and you can't be upset that this happened to you because it's your fault. That is carceral punitive punishment. Like people, like it is a trend online to say like kill like the cop inside your head, kill the cop inside your head. Then when you see that story, your response is, well, that's your fault that happened to you, so you can't be upset and you can only blame yourself, and I'm not going to be sad or upset for you. That is a cop inside your head blaming you for something horrible that happened to you. You should be mad at the school. People should be getting together to send emails and like all these videos should be like tagging the school. I don't even know what school she went to, and you don't either. And it's like we should know that. We should be so inundated with this story of people saying like, what is wrong with this school?
Like the other thing too, I think I didn't say this part about like the boyfriend of it all, which was she wasn't saying anything about the boyfriends in her videos, but that's almost more of a red flag to me because one of the things, well, there were a few people in the comments like, okay, well, why can't you go to your boyfriend's place? Or like, if you're getting kicked out, why can't you stay with him now? And she's like, because he would get in trouble. So, okay, so he knows the rules for himself. It's a priority for him to follow the rules for himself, for his housing situation, but not for yours. Like, that is a man who doesn't prioritize your safety.
No. And there's also stories with, what's his name? Neil Gaiman. That there was a lawsuit that was filed like today that I won't read because I don't want to die. But it's a lawsuit talking about how a couple of his victims, filed a lawsuit against him for sex trafficking. And the one part about that story that I didn't know when we talked about that last time is that Neil Gaiman, his victims were his fans. That the people that he was doing that with were fans of his. That makes the whole like, should we like his art thing? Table that discussion for the love of God. Because people like you were horribly abused and exploited and just traumatized for life because they enjoyed those stories. Like, maybe think about that after all of this stuff is done. But until then, I understand that it's upsetting, but like considering that because of those stories, he was able to do this to people, I will never think that should be the priority. And so just for like a quick thing, sex trafficking, if he paid people money to come and see him under the guise that when they would get there, they would have sex, that is sex trafficking. It's literally that simple. It is not him showing up at a Target and taking people in the back of his van and leaving something on the ground so other people can find it later and obsess over it. It is literally that simple of he is saying, I will give you money if you come here and have sex with me. And then when they come there to do that, suddenly he is making them do things that they never wanted to do. And he's not letting them leave and he's not letting them say no. And that is the definition of that happening. And that is coercion. He's picking fans because he knows that they are the most likely people that won't say no to him. They already love him. They already idolize him. They already would love to like be next to him and be near him and know him. And so if he is going to do this sort of like depraved activities with people to like whatever phrase he used, like experiment or however he put it in his blog, choosing your fans is the safest group of people to choose because they are the least likely group of people that will ever tell anybody about what you're doing.
Or to say no to you in general.
Yeah, and that's why it took so long for anyone to find out about what was going on because he actively chose that group of people to do that with. That is like coercive for him to choose those people.